Hello, my name is Dr. Appel from Ado Psychology Center, where we specialize in treating anxiety, depression, and OCD. Welcome to our video seminar series. Hope you enjoy this video. This video is on one of the subtypes of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, called relationship OCD or ROCD. And it is my opinion that this is one of those subtypes that even people who have not experienced obsessive compulsive disorder before in their lives might actually experience it in this specific domain as OCD, or even if not as OCD, but definitely this video will speak to many people who don't have OCD as well. So the goals for this video are pretty straightforward. Understand the nuances of relationship OCD, and learn about what treatment looks like for this specific subtype. As a very brief reminder, you're probably familiar by now with the OCD cycle, and to learn more about it, check out my general seminar on OCD more broadly. But as it relates to relationship OCD, it's usually going to begin with a trigger. Now, the trigger might be, we'll talk soon about common triggers, but let's just pick one for now. The trigger might be seeing another couple that looks really happy with each other. And you might start having obsessions then. Am I in the right relationship? Is this person, good for me, good enough for me? And of course, that causes distress and anxiety, probably, maybe fear about what your future looks like. And so you engage in compulsions. Compulsions might be Googling, am I in the right relationship? Or it might be asking someone for reassurance. And that provides relief, but it's only temporary, not permanent. And then the cycle repeats itself. So when thinking of ROCD, it can affect any type of relationship, but it commonly affects romantic relationships. And there are two types of ROCD. It can present in two ways. It can be partner focused, or it can be relationship focused. Common obsessions in the partner focused type include, is my partner attractive enough, smart enough, funny enough, social enough, moral enough? All of these are focused on the partner. Is this partner, a good enough person for me in these different domains? On the other hand, relationship focused type is where it's more about the quality of the relationship. Are we compatible? Do I love my partner? Does my partner love me? Is the quality of our relationship where it is supposed to be? How does our relationship compare to my past one or my partner's past relationship? So you see over here, these are all focused on the relationship more than on the other person specifically. I want to briefly mention that when it comes to the partner focus type and is my partner attractive enough, sometimes people have a disorder called body dysmorphic disorder by proxy, where instead in BDD and body dysmorphic disorder, someone is, obsessed with one of their, physical features or how they look in a certain way or their nose, for example. And by BDD by proxy can be where you're focused very much on your partner's nose. And every time you see them, all you can look at is their nose and how it's not perfect. So that's more related to BDD by proxy. Here, the partner focused OCD is relationship OCD is more about in general, is my partner, good enough for me in all these different domains. Some common compulsions when it comes to relationship OCD include comparing, checking, rumination, reassurance seeking, Googling, and let's get into each of these more specifically. So comparing is what it sounds like. Comparing your relationship to other people's relationships, or comparing your partner to other people in general and saying like, okay, that person's really funny. Is my partner as funny as them? Do I laugh as hard at my partner's jokes that as hard as I'm laughing at my friends' jokes? So a lot of comparing can be going on as a compulsion to check to see like, is this the right partner for me? Other ways of checking can be checking in with yourself to see how you feel when you are with your partner, for example. So, am I feeling good right now? Or how am I feeling when I'm not with my partner? Am I feeling, bad right now? If I'm feeling fine when my partner's not present, why am I even in this relationship? So lots of checking. Or, is my partner attractive enough? How am I feeling physiologically when I'm thinking about, my partner, or when I'm looking at my partner, etc. Rumination, and this is very common in OCD in general, but going over and over and over again in your mind, maybe like how the date went, or when she made a joke, was it really funny enough or not? A lot of rumination, a lot of rethinking, past scenarios, past situations. So this would be considered like a mental compulsion. You're doing a lot of it in your mind. Reassurance seeking, so asking other people, like, what do you think about my partner? Are they right for me? Am I in the right relationship? Trying to get reassurance from others to tell you, yeah, it's fine, it's normal. So if you're doing that a lot, again, there's a distinction between asking other people for advice versus where you already know the answer, but you still need to hear it again and again and again. And then Googling, right? Like I mentioned earlier. So, how do I know if I'm in the right relationship? Or maybe Googling, um, you know, what percentage of people, are always attracted to their partner? So any type of Google, it's another way of trying to get reassurance, really, but doing it through Google instead of speaking to other people about it. Common triggers for OCD. So what types of things trigger some of these obsessions and get you to start thinking about all of these, thoughts about related to your partner, the quality of your relationship? So people, right? When you see people, you see attractive people. Is my partner as attractive to them? Is as attractive as them, or is as funny as them, or moral as them? Couples, is the quality of my relationship as good as this other couple that's eating lunch next to me or next to us? Friends, family, articles, reading articles about relationships, anything really can be a trigger. And the list goes on and on and on. Weddings, if you're at a wedding, like, if this will be me, is this, can I see myself getting married to this person? Social media, and people always post their best moments on social media. So you think everyone has the best relationship, best partner, best looking. Your own partner can be a major trigger to you. Every time you see them, you're checking in and seeing, like, am I attracted to them? Are they funny? Are they moral enough? Are they nice enough? Emotions when you're with your partner. So your own emotions can be a trigger for you. If you're feeling a certain way, if you're feeling kind of detached, you might start freaking out and saying, like, why do I feel this way? Or if you're feeling great when you're not with them, physiological sensations when you're with your partner and when you're not with your partner. Wedding planning, obviously. So as you can see, there are so many triggers that can, trigger these obsessions for someone who has ROCD. It's worth mentioning the two possible time points where this can happen. So it can happen prior to committing to the relationship or prior to getting married, or it can happen after committing to the relationship or after getting married. And sometimes I've had clients who said that when they were dating, it was fine, but after they got married, they constantly were questioning. So sometimes people, it's very common after within the first year of marriage, for example, to question and to be unsure. But when it comes to ROCD, it's constant and it's irrational and extreme. And we'll talk more about the differences between common doubting and uncertainty with regards to relationships versus ROCD. But it's a little bit different when it's before the marriage or relationship. It can be a little bit different than when it's afterwards. Sometimes after the fact, people could have a better time accepting it because they don't feel like they're going to consider divorce, although some people do. But prior could be much harder. Like, is this right? How do I make this decision, right? To marry this person or not? So that could be much harder or worse sometimes. And vice versa. Sometimes beforehand, you feel like, okay, I always have a way out. I don't have to commit to this person yet, so I'm okay. Afterwards, you could feel like terrible. So it really depends on each case. So, what are some consequences of ROCD? As you can imagine, it can cause people to push off the timeline or never committing to a relationship or getting married. It could cause people to break up, sometimes getting back together only to break up again later. The relationship could begin deteriorating. Imagine you're constantly checking in or maybe even asking your partner, like, how do I know you're the right person for me? Or when you're with them, you're not really being in the present moment. And so that's taking you away from the relationship, and eventually it can deteriorate. It can cause you to ask for a divorce or cause your partner to want to ask a divorce from you if it's getting really intolerable. You could, other consequences could be staying together, but still you're in constant doubt and constant distress and feel like your life is over. It can cause you to be constantly checking and comparing and reassurance seeking, being distracted from the present moment, like I mentioned before. And it could also create challenges with intimacy because it's hard to be present and be intimate with someone when you're constantly doubting if this is the person for you, or if you're constantly checking as to how attractive they really are or how funny they really are. So there are a lot of consequences, real life consequences to ROCD. It's not just the disorder itself which is distressing, but could actually cause real life consequences, which isn't always as true for some of the other OCD subtypes. And again, feel free to check out my other videos on other subtypes where we talk about in more detail other subtypes as well. So some maladaptive beliefs found in ROCD include, if I'm really attracted to my partner, I should not feel attraction toward anyone else. All right, so someone with ROCD may hold strongly onto this belief. And as you can imagine, if you're thinking that way, and then all of a sudden you feel attracted to someone else for a second, you start doubting your whole relationship. Or the quality of my relationship should be 100% all the time. And again, so what if it dips to 95 or 80% or 50% for a day or for an hour? Relationships are static. There are no ebbs and flows. Relationships don't need working on. So it should just be good. If it's not good, it's a problem. I should always feel a certain way toward my partner. I should always be looking forward to the next time I get to see my partner. And if I keep comparing, checking, ruminating, reassurance seeking, I will finally feel confident that I'm in the right relationship. So these are a bunch of common maladaptive beliefs found in ROC. They're maladaptive because they're not helping you with your situation at all. In fact, they're hurting. So how do we differentiate between ROCD and typical relationship doubting? Because doubts, questions, and uncertainty commonly take place in romantic relationships. However, in ROCD, the doubts are accompanied by strong feelings of distress and urgency. It's not a fluid question that you're entertaining and seeing how things go. There's a sense of urgency and it's accompanied with a lot of distress. The doubts feel very intense. They're incessant, which means they keep coming at you. You can never feel like you have relief from them. You can never enjoy the present moment while spending time with your partner, right? If you generally have doubts, but you're having a good time with your partner, you're enjoying yourself. But someone with ROCD, even when they're with their partner, usually are not able to be present with them because they're constantly doubting and checking and comparing, like we mentioned before. The doubts tend to be irrational, so it's not real doubts. If someone with ROCD tries to describe to someone else why they're doubting, many times people are like, what are you talking about? Right? And not only that, but the person themselves usually has moments of clarity and says, no, I think she's attractive, or I think he's attractive, or I think, you know, she's funny enough, or he's funny enough. But when they're triggered, they're like, how do I know for sure? I don't know. I didn't laugh at that one joke. So it's kind of irrational. The doubts tend to get stronger as the relationship progresses, many times in ROCD. So other times, usually you would end up with more clarity as time progresses, one way or the other, but you're ending up with more clarity. But in ROCD, it's just constant doubting, constant. The person usually has or had other OCD subtypes as well. So this isn't always the case, but for someone that has OCD, they can expect that when they get into a relationship, it might affect the relationship and then causing them to have OCD specifically with regards to the relationship. So that's obviously a telltale sign as well. And also, most people go a lot with their gut feeling and common sense. So they may say like, okay, yes, I didn't feel great during that date with my partner, but I felt great other times. My gut feeling is that my partner is the right one for me, and I'm ready to go ahead with this. I'm ready to keep the relationship going. But someone with ROCD is so in their mind, they're treating it almost as if they were a robot, calculating all this information, trying to come to a conclusion without paying any attention to their sensations in their body, their gut feeling, their common sense. So that's another telltale sign of what's ROCD versus what is typical relationship doubting. So let's discuss now treatment for ROCD. And again, for general treatment, check out my video on OCD more broadly, but now we're going to apply specifically to ROCD. So I view it as three components to treatment: psychoeducation, exposure and response prevention, ERP, and acceptance. Now let's go through each of these in a little bit more detail. Psychoeducation. Step one is to correct maladaptive beliefs. We discussed earlier a bunch of maladaptive beliefs that people with ROCD often hold on to. And so psychoeducation is providing information about the disorder and correcting these maladaptive beliefs, not as a reassurance and not as a constant ongoing thing in therapy, but as a one-time discussion. It's very important to have. So even though I am attracted to my partner, it's okay to feel attraction toward other people sometimes. We're humans, it's natural. The quality of my relationship does not need to be 100% all the time. In fact, it probably never will be 100% all the time. Relationships are not static. There is ebb and flow, right? Sometimes relationships get better, sometimes less good. There are ups and downs. All relationships need to be worked on. So this idea of, am I in the right relationship? Well, have you been working on the relationship? I do not always need to feel a specific way toward my partner. Sometimes I can feel anger towards them. Sometimes I can feel bored with them. I don't always have to be on cloud nine when I'm with my partner. I can enjoy time alone without thinking about the next time I'll see my partner. Whereas someone with OCD might say, I was alone and I didn't really care about like seeing my partner that night or the next day. That's terrible. No, it's okay to enjoy alone time as well. And this one is really important. This is the correct version of the maladaptive belief we mentioned earlier, which goes like this: unless I stop comparing, checking, ruminating, reassurance seeking, I will never feel confident that I'm in the right relationship. So people with ROC think the way to feel certainty is by engaging in more compulsions, more comparing, more checking, more ruminating, more reassurance seeking, and finally I'll get to where I need to be. But they're wrong. That's the way to get them to maintain the uncertainty and keep the doubt alive. On the other hand, the way to feel more certain and go on with your life is by stopping these compulsions. And that leads us into ERP, exposure and response prevention. So first, you have to recognize the symptoms as OCD, and then you commit to treating them as such. You commit to treating each symptom that you have as OCD, and therefore you don't engage in compulsions in response to them. So what does response prevention look like? Stop engaging in the compulsions. Stop comparing to other couples. Stop checking in exactly how you feel every moment. Stop ruminating. Stop reassurance seeking and asking other people again and again and again, and be more present in the moment. Exposures, and again, check out my general OCD seminar for more detail about exposures broadly. But for ROCD, exposures would be purposely look at other attractive people as you're walking the street, for example. Look at unflattering pictures of your partner. Observe friends' high quality relationships. Read articles about relationships that fell apart. So do all the things that you were avoiding or that you were doing as a checking compulsion. You want to now expose yourself to without engaging in compulsion. So look at an attractive person, say, yeah, I think they're pretty attractive, and then move on with your day. Or look at unflattering pictures of your partner, and you say, like, okay, yeah, I don't think my partner looks so attractive in this picture, and move on with your day. So expose yourself to these fears, to these triggers in a healthy way, and then move on with your day. And you're going to train yourself that way to not have to have your whole world stop every time you're naturally triggered. And then the third component that I mentioned was acceptance. So you have to accept a bunch of things here. You have to accept that uncertainty is normal. You're never going to be certain. Accept that no relationship is perfect. Accept that emotions naturally fluctuate over time. Accept that your partner may not be the most attractive, smartest, funniest person in the world, right? Let's not fool ourselves. Not everyone can be the most attractive. So you have to accept that. You have to be realistic and open to accepting it. And accept that no matter who your partner is, you will always have intrusive doubts and that no relationship can guarantee happiness. And once you can accept that, you can let go of this unrealistic standard of yours to have full certainty and not have any intrusive doubts. And then you can finally live life. And the more you're willing to accept it, the less you'll actually have to experience the intrusive doubts and uncertainty, because the more focus you'll be on your actual life. And accept that your love for your partner will ebb and flow. So a question that often comes up in treating ROCD, especially people before they commit to a relationship or before they get married, for example, they ask, how do I decide if he or she is the one for me? Okay, so maybe I'm going to stop ruminating and all that stuff, but I need to make a decision here. How do I make this decision? I can't make this decision. I'm uncertain if this is the right person for me. So here are a few tips. First, when you're on a date with your partner, be fully present and don't engage in compulsions. Don't be checking, don't be comparing, just be present, engage in the conversation, enjoy the food you're eating, whatever you're doing, be present in the moment. Learn how to separate the symptoms of ROCD from your genuine feelings about the relationship. Write down the qualities you're looking for in a partner and see if your partner kind of matches up. Now, kind of is in quotations because they're never going to match up. You're never going to know exactly if they're matching up. But as long as they kind of match up, that's a good place to start. And don't engage in this process excessively. Don't be making lots of lists and constantly comparing. But you could, if you need to make a decision, you should make a list of like, what are you looking for in a partner? And does this person kind of match up to your list? Set aside specific time to problem solve and limit your analyzing to the preset times. This is a really important one. When you're triggered, any type of problem solving you think you're doing to come to a decision here is just more rumination and more compulsions. Instead, set a preset time. Tell yourself, okay, tomorrow at 5 p.m., I'm going to sit down and think about, is this the person for me? That's a much healthier way of doing it than every time you're triggered for some reason, sitting down in that moment and trying to figure it out. Also, structure your problem-solving time in such a way that it's productive, not just free rumination time. So you want to structure in a way and say like, okay, how am I going to problem solve here? I don't want to sit down and think and think and think and go nowhere. What is my plan to come to a decision here? So it may be making a list of values. It may be asking, a friend, not for reassurance, but, what their thoughts are on this person in general. All right, seek input from trusted friends and family members who know you well, but not as reassurance. And you can use the gun to the head approach, which I believe is a term coined by Jonathan Grayson, another OCD specialist, who pretty much says, if you had a gun to your head, if someone put a gun to your head and said, is this a person for you or not? What's your initial response? And that's often a very great way for people with OCD who need to make decisions to not get caught up in all the rumination, but rather to get to the decision that is correct for them. So the gun to the head approach, and you're like, I don't think this partner's for me. Okay, so maybe they're not for you. But if you feel like gun to the head approach, is this person for you? And you're like, yeah, then that's probably a more accurate answer than if you spend 10 more hours analyzing and reanalyzing and comparing and checking and ruminating and reassurance seeking. And last, remember that successful relationships have more to do with the effort you put in than the specific qualities and compatibility of your partner. So that's pretty fortunate for you, right? It's not so much about static relationship or static person. Of course, there needs to be some potential for growth. But assuming the basics are there and assuming they kind of match up for what you're looking for, then it's really in your hands how your relationship goes. The more effort you put in and you work on the relationship, the more successful you'll be. And the less effort you put in and the more you ruminate and keep checking, the more your relationship then is going to just deteriorate. Last, I recommend seeking professional help in general for OCD, but specifically for this subtype because it could be very complicated. It could be very hard to differentiate between relationship OCD versus actual relationship doubting. And even within relationship OCD, you want to make a decision here, and how do you do it? So it's always important to get guidance from an OCD specialist who really understands the nuances of OCD and the different subtypes, especially when it comes to this one. So in summary, there are two types of ROCD we discussed, partner-focused and relationship-focused. We spoke about common compulsions being comparing to others, other relationships, other people, checking, see how you feel with your partner, when you're with them, when you're not with them, rumination, reassurance seeking, asking other people again and again, is she the right one? Is he the right one? Am I in the right relationship? How do I know for sure? Googling. And treatment, as we mentioned, includes psychoeducation and correcting the common maladaptive beliefs that people have about relationships in general, especially those with ROCD. ERP, so exposure and response prevention, and acceptance. We discuss different things that are important to accept when it comes to dealing with ROCD. Hope you enjoyed this video seminar. To see a full list of our current videos as well as upcoming videos that we'll be posting soon, visit us at adopsychologycenter.com and sign up to be notified when we post new videos. Bye for now.